Hello neighbors. This video is going to describe the process for the Board of Commissioners in Aleppo Township to take official action. My name is Matthew Dobler. I am the current president of the Board of Commissioners here in Aleppo Township. It's worth stopping here and recognizing the implications of my title on the subject of decisions made by the board. The document that governs what we do is called the Rules for Board of Commissioners Meetings. These rules were adopted by Resolution number 2006-01, which means that they've been around since sometime in 2006. If you're interested in checking out the primary source, these rules are available on our website. As we go through this video, I'll refer to this document as the Aleppo Meeting Rules. If we go back to my title as the President of the Board of Commissioners, we see that the Aleppo Meeting Rules establish the President as the presiding officer of meetings. So this means that one of my jobs as President is to oversee the process of the board doing things or taking action. Now, I know that procedure isn't the most exciting topic out there. Most people find it boring, and they think it gets in the way of getting things done. Worse yet, it's complicated. In most procedural systems, there are all sorts of rules and motions, and knowing which of them applies is a daunting task. Fortunately, the Aleppo Meeting Rules specifically indicate that they are not to confuse issues or cause members to be hampered by needless procedural questions. As the sitting presiding officer, I too believe that if procedure confuses the issue, it has missed its point. That said, my overarching goal is to make residents aware of what is going on in their local government. I want to hear what residents think about decisions we're making before we make them. If you're watching this video, you're probably already aware that we record all of our meetings and post them to YouTube, then email a digest of the meeting. The process for board action that I'm going to outline here is designed to work with this digest system and get feedback from residents who watch the meeting online. We don't need to be overly formal about it, but if the goal is to involve residents through the online recording, we do need to stick to a process that allows them to participate. So let me start with a few basics. The Aleppo Meeting Rules adopt Robert's Rules of Order as its general guide for procedure. Robert's Rules is intimidating, but if we master a few of the basics, we'll have everything that we need for a simple Aleppo meeting. I'm going to pull heavily from a book called Robert's Rules for Dummies, which I highly recommend if you want to take a deeper dive into the process. So the first thing that we need to understand is what a motion is. Robert's Rules for Dummies defines a motion as a proposal formally offered by a member in a meeting requesting that the assembly take specific action. That's simple enough, but I can make it even easier and lead to my first rule of mastering procedure. A motion is a request that the board take action. That's all there is to it. There's no magic. When somebody makes a motion, all they're doing is asking the board to take some action. The action that the movant is asking the board to take could be anything. It could be something substantive, such as, I move that we order pizza. I request that we take the action of ordering pizza. Or it could be something procedural. I move that we table the conversation about ordering pizza until next month. But regardless of whether you're suggesting that the board do something or do something procedural, all you're doing when you make a motion is requesting that the board take some action. All right, so with this basic understanding about motions in mind, there are a few rules about motions to understand. First, if we understand that a motion is a request that the board take action, it stands to reason that the board cannot take action without a motion. Without a motion, the board is just 5 people. None of them have the authority to do anything on behalf of the board. We can't approve things. We can't decide what we're going to talk about. We can't authorize spending money. The president can't do these things for the board. The township manager can't do these things for the board. Not even a couple of members can take collective action. The only way the board can do anything is through a motion. So, persnickety as it may seem, a motion is required for all board action. Second, a motion must be specific. Somebody is going to have to do something in response to the motion, and the only way to make sure that what they are doing is correct is for the motion to be specific. In Aleppo, motions often direct our manager or secretary to do something. The motion may ask the manager to write a letter to somebody, or it may direct the secretary to pay a bill, or it may authorize the solicitor to research a legal issue. If the motion is not specific about what the person is supposed to do, it will be frustrating to accomplish what they've been asked to do. Furthermore, it would be improper for them to go back later and ask any one member of the board for further instructions, since that would be action without a motion. It's not required, but one way to make sure a motion is specific is for it to be written down ahead of time. We know that some motions will be made, so we can write those down in advance and include them directly in the agenda. But if a motion is being made mid-meeting, it's helpful for it to be jotted down to make sure it says what's intended. Part of the process in Aleppo is that I will type the motion, so it will ultimately get written out anyhow, and it will speed things up if it's written in advance. Another important element of specificity goes back to the guiding principle of citizen awareness. It's hard for a resident to tell us how they feel about proposed action if there's no meat on the bones. The devil is in the details, and it doesn't do any good for us to get citizen feedback about general topics. For our process to work, when a motion goes out for citizen feedback, it has to be developed enough that they know what is being proposed. Third, the motion should come before discussion about the motion. This seems counterintuitive. Some people say the discussion should come first, and the motion will evolve out of the conversation. People of this thinking say you can't know what the board should do until the commissioners have talked the issue over first. The thought is that this approach is more organic. But this is not proper procedure. The Aleppo meeting rules specifically require a motion and a second before discussion. Furthermore, this is the accepted practice by everyone following Robert's rules. Again, this seems persnickety, but it's part of the process that leads to efficiency. And here's why. If we start the discussion with a proposed action, the conversation has a direction. If we just pick a topic and then start to talk about it, we could be there all night. Having a goal to talk towards keeps the discussion focused. Part of the conversation may be to change the proposed action, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, but we start with some action and go from there. So these are the three guiding principles for motion. They're the only way the board can take action. They must be specific enough for everybody to know what is being proposed, and the motion should be made before it's discussed. All right. The second key to understanding deliberative process is to know the difference between a main motion and a subsidiary motion. A main motion is what you probably know as just a general motion. It brings substantive business before the assembly. It is the meat of what we're discussing. If the requested board action is to buy a new snowplow, the main motion may be, I move that we purchase a snowplow. If that motion gets a second, we're off to the races and we can start talking about it. We may tinker with the language through a subsidiary motion, but the main motion remains, I move that we purchase a snowplow. Once made, the main motion stays around until it is voted on or withdrawn. Okay, that's a main motion. A subsidiary motion, by contrast, is one that aids in the disposal of other motions. Once the main motion is made, we use subsidiary motions to get us to the place where the main motion is ready for a vote. We may use a subsidiary motion to change the main motion, postpone voting on the main motion, or get more information about the subject matter of the main motion. While the subsidiary motions are being decided, the main motion just waits around. It isn't voted on until all the subsidiary motions affecting it are decided. Let's look at an example. When we were talking about main motions, we said that we may want to buy a snowplow, and somebody may propose a main motion to purchase a snowplow. Now that we have the main motion, somebody may start proposing subsidiary motions to assist in the disposition of the main motion. So, for example, somebody may make a request that we take action to change the main motion to include a price limit. And somebody else may move that we specify who we buy it from. As they stack up, each of these subsidiary motions is its own motion. They each require a motion, a second, and a vote. If they don't carry, we don't make the change to the main motion suggested. We're not voting on the main motion when we decide these subsidiary motions. The main motion just hangs around until we're ready for a final vote. Once all the subsidiary motions are resolved, we're left with nothing other than the main motion, which may now look different than it originally did. We vote on that, and then, and only then, is the main motion resolved. All right, so how does this all work in Aleppo? Well, the first thing to recognize is that we hold 2 meetings every month in Aleppo. We hold a workshop meeting on the second Monday of every month. 1 week later, we hold a legislative meeting. The relationship between the workshop meeting and the legislative meeting is important. We generally conduct business only at the legislative meeting. That means we vote on main motions of importance at the legislative meeting. However, to get those main motions teed up for the legislative meeting, they need to be made and seconded at the workshop meeting the week before. Remember my overarching goal of citizen awareness. I don't want to vote on any main motions without having given our residents the opportunity to tell us how they want us to vote on that issue. So we need at least a week between the time when the motion is proposed and when it is voted on to give citizens an opportunity to participate. Since the main motion needs to be ready for its final vote by the end of the workshop meeting, we may vote on subsidiary motions at the workshop meeting. Does this mean that technically we occasionally take action at the workshop meetings? Yes, it does. We may also vote on main motions at the workshop meeting if they are so inconsequential as to not require citizen input. So it's not exactly accurate to say that we don't take action at the workshop meetings. It's better to say that we don't take action on main motions of importance. The second thing to learn how all of this works in our township is to recognize how our tracking system works. We use a program called Workflowy to keep track of lots of Aleppo business, including our to-do list, our goals, and most importantly, our motions. One of the lists we keep in Workflowy is called our action log. In the action log, we have a list of the meetings we've had in the past and the next few meetings we're going to have in the future. If we expand out one of the past meetings, we can see exactly the action the board took at that meeting. Similarly, if we expand one of the bullets for a future meeting, we can see the issues that will be ready for action at that meeting. Workflowy is the hub around which the cycle of action spins. It keeps us on track as an item moves from the agenda and gets discussed, ends up in the minutes and gets worked on off calendar, and shows up again on the next meeting agenda, and the cycle repeats itself. Workflowy syncs the efforts of me as the presiding officer of the meetings, our township manager, who is responsible for lots of getting stuff done, and the township secretary, who prepares the minutes and the agendas. It also allows the public to see what's coming up, which meets my goal of citizen awareness. Okay, so how does it all come together? How do we pull off this awesome effort to be organized, to be efficient, and to have better citizen participation than any other municipality ever? Well, step one is for us to make our motions at workshop meetings. You'll see me struggling to feverishly type the motions into the activity log. It's important, though, for us to take the time to get it correct so that we're on the same page, our staff knows what to do, and residents can give us good feedback. We'll deal with any subsidiary motions, and when we get to a main motion of significant importance, I will move to defer that main motion for 1 week to the next legislative meeting. Step 2 is for us to send out a digest that includes the proposed motion, a link to the video of the workshop meeting, and a request for feedback. The digest is a lot for the secretary and I to get together in 1 week, so it doesn't always come out immediately after the meeting, but we try to get it ready quickly. We want any feedback you want to give us, but you should pay special attention to the bullets that specifically say we're going to be voting on something the following week. Inform yourselves about the issue. Watch the video. After you've watched the video, if you have feedback on that issue, just send me a reply email. Step 3 is for us to vote on the main motion at the legislative meeting. Before the vote, I'll read the board any of the emails that I've received. I'll open the floor to discussion again, and if there are any new subsidiary motions that don't change the main motion too significantly, we'll address those. Then, we'll vote on the main motion. In many instances, that vote will be very quick because of all the work we've already done at the workshop meeting. So that's the plan. Now, one final thought. This is all new. If you have any ideas on how we can improve this process, I want to hear. Here's all of our contact information. Feel free to send an email to the township, feel free to send an email to me, or feel free to give the township office a call. And thanks for your patience as we work to learn a new system. Given our lofty goals, It's worth it when we struggle to get it great. Thanks for watching, and as always, thanks for making Aleppo a great place to live.